Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna be making this cute summer DIY sketchbook, and this time I'm going to use a hot press watercolor paper. This is from Fabriano Studio line and it is 25% cotton. Usually I opt in for the cold press watercolor paper, but this time I decided to be adventurous because I heard that hot press watercolor paper is actually very good for sketching, because then you can make a line art with the pen and then fill it in with watercolor. Here's a small test of the paper I've done before, and I think it worked very well. I did many layers on that small piece and it absorbed the water greatly. For the hot press watercolor paper, because it does work slightly different from it does work very different from the cold press one, but I was happy with the result, so I decided to use it to make a sketchbook. And the sheets are very smooth and very nice to touch. And for this sketchbook I'll be using 5 of these sheets, and they are close to A3 size. So if I divide them by 2, then I would be able to have 10 signatures, which I think is more than enough for a sketchbook. I just have a couple of travels planned within the country, and I will be staying by the sea a lot, which I'm very happy about. So I have decided to make this very sea-inspired watercolor sketchbook. And so I'll try not to ramble too much and I will let you enjoy the process. I tried to make this video more or less real time, except for several moments, so it is relatively long. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee or your other beverage of choice and enjoy the video. I start by cutting the sheets in half using this cutting machine. Usually I'm okay with just tearing the sheets because I really like that ruffled edge watercolor paper has, but these sheets, they are so nicely cut on all sides that I decided to pull out my cutting machine and actually make a proper clean cut so that it looks nice on all edges. I start binding the sketchbook. And if you have ever made a sketchbook before, then you know that I missed one critical step. I marked the places for the holes in my signatures, but I didn't actually make the holes. I just moved to binding right away. So I started poking with my needle and wondering just, why is this so hard? Though I do think that it would have definitely worked rather smoothly if it was a thinner paper, if you're making a sketchbook for drawings, for example, and it is, I don't know, 100, 120 GSM paper, then it would have probably been no problem. But with watercolor paper that is 200 grams per square meter, that was a bit tough. So I did this first signature, and then of course I put it aside and made the actual holes using a special tool in my signatures, because otherwise the binding process would have turned out to be very, very long. I started binding with the straight usual needle, but then I switched to the curved one, and I do think it is a special needle for the book binding. And this was my first time using this type of needle. I was a little bit hesitant before, but this was such a good choice. So if you do have an opportunity to get a curved needle, I highly recommend it. It is so much easier to do this kettle stitch that I'm using for binding. I'm not going to explain how I do this stitch because I'm not an expert, and like probably most of the people on YouTube, I learned it from Sea Lemon. She has an absolutely wonderful channel with probably all kinds of bookbinding that exist in the world, and this is where I got this idea. And this is my favorite type of stitch for my sketchbooks because I think it's very easy to make, and I also really like that if you use kettle stitch, then your sketchbook opens flat. Because for me, this is probably one of the most important requirements towards my sketchbooks. If they do not lie flat, then it becomes so uncomfortable to work in them that I never really pick them up. For the cover, I'm going to be using watercolor paper as well, just of very, very bad quality. It is from a very, very cheap watercolor paper pad, and I bought it because I always look for something good quality but affordable, but this was not the case, at least for me. I just realized that personally I couldn't use it for watercolor sketches or paintings because it has a very weird texture and it doesn't hold water that well, and just the whole experience was rather odd. However, it is still 200 GSM, so it's a relatively thick paper, and for this project it will work absolutely perfect as a cover. I am planning to add a ribbon to the cover, as they often do in the travel journals, because I find it very comfortable to keep the sheets together. And for this I don't really measure anything. I just pinch a little bit where I think the hole should go, like approximately in the center, and then I just mark it with a pencil and make a hole. But before we proceed to adding the ribbon, let's make the design for our cover. I decided to use my watercolors, and like I said, I'm planning to spend quite some time by the sea, so I really wanted to make this sea-like design. So it is half abstract, but I was really thinking about when you look at the open sea and the horizon line disappears in the mist. So this is kind of the feeling that I wanted to give to the cover, but I still wanted to keep the colors rather bright because it is summer, so we need some bright colors to keep our mood up, right? And if you are enjoying this video, then please give it a like and hit that subscribe button so that more people could see it as well. Here I want to add a small note on top of the Mod Podge. When it dried a little bit, I've also added a layer of varnish. And this is what gave this wonderful shine to the cover. No, we're not done yet. We still need to attach the cover to our signatures. But before we do that, I decided to add one tiny thing to the cover. I added this blue frame using ultramarine, and it changed the whole look so much eventually. Just keep watching and you will see what I mean. And we are done. I love the way the sketchbook turned out. It looks so nice and it's just beautiful, and I really like this blue edge that I have in the sketchbook. It gives it a completely different look, and the paper, it feels very nice, and this little fish is so cute. So I'm so looking forward to spending hours by the beach just making some drawings and little paintings in this sketchbook. It will be part of the travel kit that I'm taking with me, and if you would like to see what else I'm going to take on my trips, then please hit that subscribe button and click a bell so that you get notifications when my next video is up. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one. Bye!